In this podcast episode, we want to introduce you to our BCEN and friend, Gretchen Carrougher. Janie Shoemaker and Mark Eggers talk with Gretchen about her work with burn survivors, highlights of her career, and her current work towards burn nursing certification. Gretchen has a passion and a fire within her that makes you realize anything is possible. This episode is called The Power of Passion.
Hello, and welcome to BCEN and Friends podcast, where we hold interesting conversations about learning with a range of thought leaders, BCEN certification holders, and industry professionals. But most importantly, to create value and insight for you, our professional nurses across the emergency spectrum. We hope you find our discussions interesting, informative, sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always valuable. I'm Mark Eggers, Manager of Education and Technology Services at BCEN, and one of your hosts for today. And I'm joined by our co-host, Janie Shoemaker, CEO at BCEN. Hi, Janie.
Hey, Mark.
In this episode of BCEN Friends, we have our friend Gretchen Carrougher. Janie, could you please tell us about our BCEN and friend, Gretchen?
Yes, Mark, it'd be my pleasure to do so. Gretchen Carrougher is the Research Nurse Supervisor at the University of Washington Medicine Regional Burn Center, Program Coordinator for the Northwest Regional Burn Model System, and affiliate faculty, UW School of Nursing, Department of Biobehavioral Nursing and Health Systems in Seattle, Washington. Gretchen graduated from the University of Washington with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing in 1981 and a Master of Science in Nursing degree in Burn, Trauma, and Emergency Nursing. She has held positions as a clinical staff nurse, clinical nurse specialist, and research nurse during her 40-year burn nursing career. Gretchen has worked at 3 distinguished burn centers in the United States: MedStar Washington Hospital Center, Washington, D.C., the U.S. Army Institute of Surgical Research in San Antonio, and the UW Medicine Regional Burn Center in Seattle. Gretchen is national faculty for the Advanced Burn Life Support course and has been a member of the American Burn Association since 1982. She has authored 108 peer-reviewed manuscripts and chapters concerning basic nursing care, long-term outcomes, pain and pruritus management, and employment return to productivity for individuals living with burn injury. She is also a longstanding international nurse educator, primarily serving our Central American burn nurse colleagues. Gretchen has served on many professional committees, both within and outside of the American Burn Association, to include the American Burn Association Board of Trustees, but views her current position as chair of the American Burn Nursing Professional Certification Committee, which is going on presently, as her greatest and most important challenge to date. Through these efforts of the committee, burn nursing is now recognized as a specialty by the American Nurses Association, and ultimately, with the support of the American Burn Association, the work of the Nursing Professional Certification Committee, and collaboration with BCEN, a national burn certification program will be available by 2023. To date, Gretchen views the work to achieve professional recognition and certification as the most significant advancement with the greatest personal and professional reward of her burn nursing career. Gretchen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to BCEN and Friends. Thank you so much for giving your time today and being our guest.
Thank you.
All right. So Gretchen, that is an amazing introduction. You have had so many amazing things happen in your career. What a career you've had, and you're not finished. You've got a lot more to do. I would love it if you could tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you live. What do you do? A little bit more about what you do at work. And of course, we'd like to hear what you do for fun.
Well, thank you, Janie and Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to share a bit of my history and our current work towards burn nursing certification with you. I live in the Seattle area, and as you know, I work at the UW Medicine Regional Burn Center at Harborview Medical Center. I am currently a research nurse supervisor, and I work with burn survivors throughout their lifetime following their discharge from the hospital. It is a true honor and privilege to work with them in this capacity as we perform our research and learn more more about the recovery and rehabilitation of burn survivors. A little bit about myself. I love the outdoors. I enjoy our beautiful Pacific Northwest environment. I'm a mom, a wife, and most recently a grandmother of 2 little kids running around. So I have a very full and productive life and am really enjoying what I see is likely this last chapter in my professional career.
And as we said, Gretchen, well, first of all, you certainly live in a beautiful area. So if you enjoy the outdoors, you're in the right spot. I've visited your area and it's just breathtaking in places. So a little bit envious of your location. Your career has been simply phenomenal. Would you like to tell us of some highlights that you're most fond of as you think back over what you've accomplished so far? And like we said, you've got a lot more to do, last chapter or not, but tell us some of those highlights that you think fondly of when you think about your last 40 years in nursing.
Well, thanks. I have been most fortunate in my career. And as probably everyone would agree, you don't get to this position or have achieved the benefits and the successes that I have without many people. And those are the highlights of my career, the people that I have come to meet. And they include clinicians, researchers, and really most importantly, the burn survivors and their family members that I have met over my 40 plus years of being a burn nurse. These individuals have truly shaped my career, and they've had a huge impact on both my clinical and research perspectives and interests. Now, I've also been involved in the American Burn Association really from early in my career, and that involvement has also shaped my career and research interests. As you mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, my current efforts to achieve professional recognition for burn nursing and ultimately to achieve a nursing certification are likely going to be the most significant advancements in my career. But personally, it's the people that I've met along the way that are truly the highlights of this time in my life.
Well, that's pretty amazing, Gretchen. It is about people. And I especially love it when you say it's about my patients, the survivors that I've helped. And I'm sure that you have many of them that you probably think about every day. That's kind of why we got into nursing, to make a difference for people. And you're certainly doing that. You have been very instrumental in moving this, in obtaining specialty recognition for burn nursing. And really that happened just in 2020, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And so
ANA's, after submission of our scope and standards of practice, the American Nurses Association formally recognized us as a specialty within nursing in August of 2020.
Okay. I'm amazed at the sheer will and persistence that you've had. And I know you've told me many times this whole thing has been a team effort, and I'm sure that's true. But I also do recognize that it does take somebody with this tenacity and passion for what the end goal is, which in your case was getting the burn nursing to be recognized as a specialty and ultimately achieving specialty certification opportunities for burn nurses. And we're well on the way of getting that done. So really, I am thinking how much your passion has really contributed to making all this happen. Gretchen, where does that passion come from? You just have a fire within you for this. And it's obvious if anybody, I mean, people, our listeners can't see you, but I'm sure they can hear it in your voice. And anytime we get to, I've just recently met you in person and it just shines through. Where does this passion and fire come from to accomplish this?
My passion. Well, I believe it actually comes from 2 different sources. One is the compassion and dedication that I see from my burn team colleagues. So not just the nurses that I work with, but all members of the burn team. And as you mentioned in the introduction, I have been fortunate to work with 3 different burn teams in the United States. And these individuals, these past and present members of the burn teams that I have worked with and work with now are truly my inspiration. Number two, through my research, I've been fortunate to meet and stay connected with burn survivors and their families for many, many years as they move through their journey of recovery. They have helped me maintain my passion for seeking ways to improve burn care. So not just to be a better burn nurse, but to truly improve the overall care that we provide. And a recent example that I've had that I wanted to mention here is that I wrote a manuscript with several colleagues from the burn model system investigator pool. And we asked 3 adult burn survivors to join us in collaborating on this particular manuscript. And within this process, I learned how our burn model system research has impacted these individuals on a personal level. That was truly an honor. And I look forward to the next educational offering that I can participate in that includes this group of stakeholders, the people most affected by burn injury. So that's where my passion comes from. It's the people I work with and the people I serve.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be very heart-wrenching to hear from the people that the burn survivors that you mentioned. I think it would be a pretty phenomenal opportunity to get to hear and participate with them in such a thing. So if that educational opportunity comes out and they're participating, I know I want to be at the front of the line to hear that. It's always just so life-changing to hear from patients who have survived such a thing as a burn injury. So I think that I can understand where that passion comes from, and certainly the people you work with, I'm sure if they're anything like you, it's just infectious. Gretchen, you are sort of I would say that you are just such a role model when it comes to lifelong learning. Your 108 peer-reviewed articles, manuscripts that you've written. I know you've been instrumental in the burn nursing competencies. I know you're working on a core curriculum for burn nursing right now that I think is about to be finalized. And you don't get there by not knowing what you're talking about. So lifelong learning for you, I think, has been really important and instrumental in everything you do. How do you keep up with your learning needs? And how can we, especially with everything going on with nurses that are caring for patients right now, who obviously also need to be on top of what they need to know to take good care of their patients? How do you create that time? And how can we, what advice would you give to other nurses to be able to do the same?
Excellent question. I believe if we stop learning, we stop growing and we stop evolving, particularly as a profession. Nursing must practice using evidence-informed information and knowledge. And to do that, you have to accept that lifelong learning is key to your own personal growth and development. How do I personally keep up? Well, I'm not sure this is a good thing to admit, but I always have a manuscript on my to-do list. And I work with many others as a mentor and a collaborator on their research. So it's actually pretty easy for me to stay connected and continue my own personal education. Right now, as you mentioned, myself and a group of dedicated burn clinicians are working on the final drafts of the nursing core curriculum that will include 27 chapters that will hopefully become the basis for our current practice of burn nursing. We hope to have that project completed soon and ready for final editing by June of this year. Now, do I encourage my nurse colleagues to do the same? Absolutely. But I do recognize, as you pointed out, Janie, that the challenges, especially for clinical nurses at the bedside, is where to find the time and energy to keep up with and managing their own learning needs. As I see it, one option is online education. That may become more important in the future, but I won't dismiss the value of in-person education and learning. Meeting people in person, talking about issues and concerns is extremely valuable. So I look forward to future in-person meetings and certainly want to support and encourage my nurse colleagues to set aside the time, the energy, and the financial commitment to continue on with their own lifelong learning.
Wow, that's such great advice. And I know you've got the American Burn Association convention coming right up. And that's going to be an exciting chance to get back together. I think this is your first one in a while, since we all have been, those live events have definitely been far reduced or eliminated altogether. So it is exciting to think about being able to do some of that together. I do think there's a lot of value in that in-person learning. Like you said, you do have to carve out the time for it. And I agree with you. That's where the online learning can come in, where you can do that at your own pace and from the location that works best for you. I know it is a challenge for our bedside nurses to find the time and the energy right now. But I think you summed it up beautifully to let us know how important that is. And when you are done learning, you're done growing, I believe you said. So I am right with you on that. Mark, do you want to ask Gretchen some questions?
I do, Janie. Thank you. First of all, Gretchen, thank you for all that you do. Absolutely. You make a difference in people's lives and the world, and kudos to you. Just great. And as Janie said, we're doing this now as far as podcasts, and we can see each other while we're talking, but there's just passion written all over you. I can just see it in your face. Just your smile has passion to it. So Gretchen, tell us about a person or moment in your career that greatly impacted you.
Thanks, Mark. Actually, that's a really good question and an easy answer for me. Dr. Marion Jordan, who was a burn surgeon and was the past medical director at MedStar Washington Hospital Center in DC, which was the very first job as a burn nurse and new graduate nurse that I had. He was influential in my early career decision to, one, continue on in burn nursing, and two, in my decision to go to graduate school to become a clinical nurse specialist. Talk about passion. Dr. Jordan was passionate and committed to the burn patient and to burn care, and his passion was infectious. I miss him every day, but know that he would be proud of our current efforts to develop a burn nurse certification program. And what also Dr. Jordan taught me is that you don't have to be within the same profession to be a guide and to be a mentor. And so I would say Dr. Jordan was truly my very first mentor, and he was a person who I will never forget and really credit with my current passion and desire to move the specialty of burn nursing forward.
Great, thank you.
Sounds like a person we all ought to know. Gretchen, real quick, as a new graduate, you said you went into burn nursing, and there's a lot of options now, certainly. But what attracted you? Just real quick, this is an aside. What attracted you to burn nursing?
Actually, it surprised me that I was happy in this realm. I took the job at Washington Hospital Center as a new grad in the ICU because it was the only intensive care unit that would take new graduate nurses. So very naively at that time, I thought, I'll stay here for a year, hone my skills in the ICU, and then move on to another ICU that I thought would fit my professional goals better. And that was 40 years ago. So it turned out to be the best move, sort of serendipitously, but the best move I could have made.
It's interesting how the stars align and we're just put right where we're supposed to be oftentimes.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true?
Sure is.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the next question. And if you could, what would you be doing if you were not in your current role? Did you think of something before you went into this?
I've always wanted to be a nurse. So if I wasn't doing research, I would likely be a clinical nurse specialist. I loved that role that I practiced earlier in my career. I've been at the UW Burn Center twice now, actually. The first time I was here, I was as a clinical nurse specialist, and then second time coming here after a hiatus of being in Texas, I am now the research nurse, but I would likely be a clinical nurse specialist.
Gotcha. Where were you in Texas?
San Antonio. So I was at the U.S. Army Institute of Surgical Research. I was there because my husband was completing a fellowship, and he stayed on to practice, and I stayed on at ISR as a research nurse.
Gotcha. Now I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. These are questions to do with favorites. If you want to skip one, just say skip, but here we go. Your favorite book. And I got to preface this with the word current. Your favorite current book.
I'm a romantic. I'd say Gone with the Wind.
All right. I like it. How about your favorite current movie?
Okay. I'm really dating myself here. Sound of Music. It was the first movie I ever saw in a theater as a young girl. So it's, I still watch that movie today with my kids and my grandkids.
Classic. Both those, book and movie, are classic. And how about your favorite classic song then?
I don't have one song. I'd say I love or enjoy just about any song by Don Denver. So I really, truly am aging myself with these answers.
Nope, they never go out of style. Very good, very classic. And how about a comfort food or meal that you enjoy?
Ribs. I spent a few years, as I mentioned, in San Antonio, Texas. And there I came to appreciate the different tastes and heat of spices that you can use in the preparation of ribs. And I love to cook. So my comfort food is ribs. Excellent.
Beautiful. And how about, do you have any hobbies or interests outside of what you do? I mean, you're so busy and so many things going on, but any other hobbies or interests?
Sure. I love to ski, snow ski. I'm actually in Idaho right now. And I also love being a grandmother, which is as we say, a new chapter in my life. And I'm enjoying that immensely. I just recently had the privilege of showing my 3.5-year-old grandson how to ski for the first time. And that was truly a love and a fun thing to do.
Yeah, grandkids are great, aren't they?
They are.
I know. Well, I want to take the time to thank you, Gretchen, for joining us for this episode of BCN and Friends. Thank you for sharing your time, your stories, and just being with us. Thank you so much, Gretchen.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, both you, Mark, and Jamie. Really appreciate it.
And to all of our listeners, we hope you will stay tuned as we continue on with BCN and Friends and bring you new and meaningful content and perspectives. If you have a suggestion for an episode, please email us at bcen@bcn.org. I'm Mark Eggers here with Janie Shoemaker, and on behalf of the entire BCN team, we thank and celebrate you for all that you are doing as professional nurses across the emergency spectrum. Until next time,